Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there, and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for being here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m., and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. And now all over social media, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. And thanks to our sponsor for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And for those of you that emailed me on the last couple of shows, we had some wonderful guests. We're going to do a whole show in the upcoming weeks answering all your emails. And if you'd like to come on the show, certainly give us an email and let us know. We'd love to have you come on the show. Well, we got a special guest for you today. I've got Allie as my guest, who's a match racing champion, an avid sailor and racer, someone that's been around boats her whole life, part of California Yacht Club. So, Allie, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on the show with me today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
That's so exciting. You know, I found out that where you work, I have a friend that works at your company, and and he said that you were featured because you did Transpac this year. And there was a wonderful article about you and your team. And I talked about Transpac. I call it the holy grail of racing and sailing. It's really for advanced sailors, I think, although I know a couple people that have been on crew that, you know, have regretted it. But it's an absolute wonderful event. Let's start out. Let's talk about Transpac, and then we'll back up and talk about your history and your involvement and growing up in sailing and racing. Tell me about Transpac, because it's such it's like as far as I'm concerned, Transpac is more exciting than some of the bigger boat races around the world, including America's Cup, because it's real sailing. So tell me about this what I call the holy grail of racing from the Pacific Ocean in Southern California to Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite the experience. I mean, this year wasn't as eventful as some of the past stories of previous Transpacs, but it was about 4 days of upwind sailing before we got to set a spinnaker. So a little bit unique this year with some cloud cover and a few things. But, you know, for me, I've been asked to do Transpac a few times. And so I finally said yes. And I think for me, it was really just right timing, right people, you know, good boat, good things. And I'm glad I did it. It was a lot of fun. And it was really cool that, you know, I was featured in our company newsletter and on the website, and everyone's been very excited about it. And, you know, I tell stories about how I was running on coffee and cliff blocks and, you know, not a lot of sleep and all of that. But, you know, I'm typically a small boat sailor and have done a bit of offshore these last few years, kind of coming back into the scene a little bit, and was navigating for Transpac. So first big navigational thing aside from the local races, and then to Cabo and Ensenada and things. But, you know, to go from here to Hawaii and not miss the island is pretty important. So, you know, but for me, it was a huge learning experience and really stepping up to the plate, and I feel pretty good about it.
Over 2,000 miles. How long did it take you?
It took us 10 days, a little over 10 days to get there. Original routing said about 8 and change, but obviously as it progressed and we weren't setting a spinnaker, we realized that 8 days was a little stretch. But yeah, it was really good. It was really fun.
And are you all still friends?
We are still friends,
okay.
Funny enough. Yeah. No, the boat we were sailing on was Groundhog Day. It's a Rogers 46 out of Marina Del Rey. Rich Festa is the owner. But the majority of the group that sailed us, so we sailed with 9, majority of us all learned to sail together in the Cal Yacht Club Junior program.
Right. That's what's so exciting.
Yes, that was super cool. That made the regatta. You know, we knew each other as 7-year-olds, and now look at us with big kid jobs and all of that. But you know, that's what, you know, we always joke, you know, good vibes make a team, and that definitely was the reason I said yes to going on Transpac.
Let's talk about that, because you grew up sailing. Was your father a powerboater or a sailor? How did you grow up?
Family is all full of sailors.
Okay, all full of sailors, and you were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the juniors program is amazing. So let's talk about being in Marina Del Rey and growing up sailing and being one of the little kids. And I see some of the little kids as little as like 7 years old on these sabbats, and it's funny because when I see them a second or third time, they're better sailors than I am. I mean, these kids are in these little tiny sabbats at 7, 8, even 7, 8, 9 years old, and all of a sudden they just get it. It's so wonderful. So let's talk about the California Yacht Club. It's an iconic club here in Marina Del Rey. It really is their champion racing and the club activity. So what was it like growing up? And tell me a little more about your friends and the crew, too.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool growing up at Cal Yacht Club. I was born and raised in Orange County, and so we would spend summers in the marina so that I would learn how to sail, and got my first Sabbath. It was called Alley Cat.
Oh, Alley Cat.
It was, we had fun naming that one. But it was at the time, and still to this day, it's one of the top junior programs in the country. Obviously it goes through waves of number of kids and things like that, but I think over the years we've really kind of transitioned through the changing in boats. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but the U.S. Sabbath was what I learned to sail in, but no longer made. It used to be they would build, I think it was a Catalina 40, and then they would build the 36 or something, but then the spare material would turn into a Sabbath, and that was how you got your boat. And so, when they stopped making those out here, the class kind of died, and the Optimist dinghy kind of came into the picture as an international boat. And so the Cal program right now, I mean, we've sent kids to Worlds the last, I don't know how many years in the Opti, under 16. So our 14, 15-year-olds have been crushing it. So it's super fun. It's really cool to watch. That's
an exciting little tidbit of news. I did not know that. And of course I had a U.S. Sabbath as a youngster, and that was really popular. Mm-hmm. So it was the raw materials that left over from building and I had a Cal 20 as well, which is a fun boat. It's the biggest small boat that exists. When you're on that boat, you don't realize that it's a 20-footer. I've been to Catalina in it as well. That was a real popular class. But yeah, out of the raw materials, and I've talked a lot about different programs. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to a couple of shows. Every year I talk to Bobby, who runs a very important row program. She was picked up at UCLA and became a national rower. A lot of her friends are in the Olympics, and she was the coach when she was going through college at Cal Yacht Club at the rowing program. And she talked a lot about the juniors program, and she mentioned Cal Yacht Club a lot. Yeah, she was the coach there, and I had her on, and I talk about her every year when she does a big program down in, I guess, San Diego, where we pick our national and collegiate and some Olympic champions. So, yeah, Cal is an amazing club, been around a long time, and it's still going strong. So what's the juniors? Are you involved in – do you have time with your work to be involved in the juniors program?
A little bit here and there. I run one of the events at Cal for the Optimist Team Race Championship kind of at the end of the summer. But I coach here and there, but not as often as probably I'd like. But, trying to stay busy, but also have some time for some fun.
Yeah, and you're now also you're match racing champions. Tell us about the match racing championship, because that's also a lot of your friends and people you grow up with at Cal.
Yeah, we just won. So Team BAM is the name of the team. Stands for, it was the original Team BAM, which was myself, Becca Schiff, Allie Blumenthal, and Molly Robinson at the time. We've transitioned a little bit over the years, and now the team name has turned into KBAM. We've introduced Katja Sertel, and her name starts with a K. So, but we've won the U.S. Women's Match Race Championships now for the third time last weekend. So
where was it?
Yeah, it was in Annapolis, Maryland, actually. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, I had Team BAM. You couldn't be on at that time. But when you guys got the ASBYC, a real coveted award, and they give it to either individuals or teams, And I have the picture up on my website, and had a wonderful show a little while back. So I know Team BAM. So it's now Team Kabam? Kabam?
Kabam, yeah. That's strictly for the match racing stuff. Team BAM as a whole, I kind of started the movement, if you will, many years back, trying to bring in fresh college grads, showing, women like, hey, you don't have to do an Olympic campaign. You don't have to do all these things. Here's how you get into keelboat sailing. Come sail with us. Let me help you put a team together, kind of doing it on a smaller scale. I ended up pulling a lot of when I would travel, a lot of the folks that would sail with me were fresh out of college or still in school, and trying to just continue to grow and build. And now it's turned into something massive, which is amazing. And I'm very proud of it. But, for me personally and our match race team, there are 4 of us. It's Katja, myself, Becca, and Allie. And we've taken on the Team Kabam kind of name.
That's so exciting. For me to think about when I was sailing, and I was by no means a champion sailor, but I loved getting out there, had a lot of friends, and I went to different marinas with family and friends and really loved it. And I knew of your father because he used to give talks about didn't he give classes on using a sextant and how to navigate? Yeah, that was your dad. And I had gone to some of those. I think my dad knew him, and certainly I would go to anything I could at Cal Yacht Club. And for me, I have a little vision. I wish I could go through my photos. I'll bet you I was probably at an event when you youngsters were probably very young, probably even in grammar or even before high school. So, that's kind of exciting that you guys have been going around and competing and bringing in a lot of your friends, and you're still going strong. I mean, this is going to be an iconic story, and I got to know you just as you started. Yeah.
It's a funny story. You mentioned my dad and celestial navigation and the classes he used to teach, but the Cabo race earlier this year, we were sailing on Groundhog Day on the Rogers, and we lost our instruments. And I was like, well, good thing my dad is, he's taught me everything he knows. And I was like, oh, man, when you're a kid and you're kind of like, yeah, Dad, I get it. Like, all right. Stop talking. You have to start pulling all that information back out when you really need it. But no, we did. I mean, I was chart plotting and doing all of that manually. And I was like, oh, yeah, my dad did say that.
Yeah.
And started putting some pen to paper. So it comes in handy.
Your phone might not work, and you might have to go back to manual navigation. As long as you have that knowledge and education, people are forgetting, you can't see a smartphone, doesn't work out there. So you got to know that stuff, still have your VHF radios and that kind of stuff, what's in the future? What's going on with some of the other teammates? I'd like to get them on the show as well, but what's coming up next? I mean, you're now just the match racing championship. Is that throughout the year, or is it, was this the end of the season? What's the season like?
It's weird. There really isn't an end of the season, but the Nationals tends to kind of be the end of kind of our season, and then we ramp up for next year. So like next for a lot of us, like 2 of our teammates will go off and continue to coach. Like college sailing is going to get started, obviously jobs, and then like Katja's back east. We'll do some IC-37 sailing. Allie will be working at Coast Guard. Becca's going to go down to the Bermuda Gold Cup here in October. I'm going to do the Linda Elias event, the Linda Elias Women's One Design Memorial event at Long Beach Yacht Club, and then into Mayor's Cup at the end of the month. And then somewhere in there, we're all going to talk about what we're going to do for 2024.
God. Did you say one of the group is going in the Coast Guard?
So Allie Blumenthal is the assistant coach at the Coast Guard Academy. So she runs their practices and their sailing teams alongside a few other really fantastic sailors.
No kidding. I feature the Coast Guard on my show quite a bit. I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, which is the volunteer group. We train and try to assist the Coast Guard in all kinds of activities. And is she down at L.A. Long Beach? Is that where she is?
No, she's at the Academy back east.
Oh, at the Academy back east. Wow. God, that's exciting. I'd like to take a trip, and if she has a big event, have her email me. I'll come out there and take pictures and feature them on the show. That is amazing. I'm very interested in that. So as your teammates, I mean, are they pretty much locally and they travel, or are they now starting to spread out? Are they all over the place?
So we are notoriously known to be a 50-50 split, East Coast, West Coast.
Okay.
So Becca Schiff and myself are here at Cal Yacht Club, and then Katja Sertel is in Annapolis, and then Allie Blumenthal Stokes is at Coast Guard Academy or in Connecticut area. So, we're in practice is a challenge.
Oh wow, yeah, I can imagine. Are you going to do some of the the Ensenada race or around the Catalina? Are you getting into any of those races?
Yeah, I'll probably do some of those on Groundhog Day with probably the team that did Transpac. It's just a different set of folks. But yeah, we're starting to plan that out for next year as well.
Tell me about that boat. I mean, that's kind of a famous boat. Everybody knows it. You see it, when you look at the race results, it's campaigns. I mean, how do they keep that campaigning in so many races? Let's talk about the boat and the owner. That's a wonderful boat.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Rich and his son, Tony Festa, they've put in quite a lot of time and effort to kind of get things up and running. The boat used to be called Bretwalda. So it's got a plethora of wins under its belt already, under the boat captain guidance of Jay Davis. And Jay's been working kind of side by side with Tony and Rich to ensure that, if there's any issues and things like that, Jay can walk them through it. But yeah, it's a full-time schedule. But as long as we get the word out that here's our calendar for the year and we get people sorted, then the whole team kind of comes together and says, hey, what do we need to do to prep this boat? And we all pitch in our time. We're a total Corinthian boat. We're technically all amateurs. No one's paid to put anything together on it, which adds a whole different level of excitement and fun. But we all put in our time to fix things and go up the rig and, dive the boat when we're at the island and whatever else. So,
my goodness, that really is an achievement. Well, let's talk about coming here in 28. The Olympics are going to be here. You have any plans and dreams to compete, to coach, and be involved in? Because right now the buzz is going to be, we're going to have a lot of sailing events. I guess they're going to be predominantly between San Pedro and Long Beach. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I'm not planning to compete. I'll probably help with some coaching or on the water type efforts. I know I'm involved a little bit kind of early on in the planning, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, it's going to be quite the experience and a lot of venues and a lot of volunteers on and off the water to make that happen.
I have volunteered to be a photographer and to be at the after parties.
Those are the smart play. I like that.
Yeah, that's I'm really excited about being the shooting sport as well. And something that's been brought to my attention that specifically because of the women, but the shooting sports, skeet and the trap and the very shooting sport is what brings us into the top medal count in the last couple of decades. We have won our teams that have gone into the shooting. The sailing sports were competitive, but we haven't been bringing back the medals, and I hope this time is the buzz being here. I hope it puts some funding, and we have some great athletes, but I just don't see that. I don't think we support them as much as we should. So what do you think we need to do here locally and in America to support our sailors to keep out there and to get out in the international events? I mean, your group certainly is one of them. I just can't imagine that we're not going to find a couple of competitors out of your group. They're just so good.
Yeah, I mean, the team took a different look at practicing this year and how they were doing their training sessions, or I guess this past quad. And so they've changed a few things from a high level and then also from the detail level. So I'm excited to see how they're going to perform on the big stage. Progressively throughout the last few years, we've seen them go up in the rankings across the board. A couple crew changes, skipper changes, things like that. But I think that they kind of did a full overhaul within themselves and kind of pushed through some of maybe the outside drama and U.S. sailing style drama, and they've really kind of come together as an athlete group. And so, like I said, I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I think it's a really, really good group of talented sailors from kind of my generation, and then a few younger ones as well. So I got hopes. I got high hopes.
Your generation is really coming through, especially the women. There's so many sailors out there, a lot of boaters, and I've seen a lot of coaches. And I hope that we can start bringing sailing activities as official, not clubs. They're club sports right now. They're not. Is sailing NCAA, to your knowledge, or is it pretty much club sports in the collegiate level?
So the collegiate level is a little bit funny because there are club sports or club sailing teams that are competing against varsity sailing teams at NCAA sports or at NCAA schools. There have been talks about those NCAA schools taking their coaches and the sailing programs and bring them into the NCAA. Kind of ups the paycheck, it ups the funding, it ups a lot of things, but it kind of removes us from racing against some of the club teams, which happen to be pretty good. And so that's been kind of talks here and there. I haven't really followed what's happening now. I think it's always important to make sure that we've got a level playing field, and if we're gonna, if a club team's got really good players and they're could be going to nationals and should be doing this and should be doing that, but can't because they're not NCAA.
Right.
Like then we're missing something there. So I'm sure I'm not the only one that believes that, but I think there is a future for it. Maybe. I think they just got to work out some of the details.
Yeah,
but as it stands right now, sailing is not NCAA.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because there's a lot of activity. Every marina has sailors. I know a lot of people, and it would really be nice to see if we can get some of the corporations involved in funding some of the collegiate, especially at the NCAA. I mean, NCAA is a very healthy organization, and I really think they should look at sailing. It's just a wonderful activity. And it's tough to get into because you need to be exposed. You need to have some friends. You need the exposure. But once exposed, it's fascinating how people get addicted and they don't stop. And it's amazing. So every club has got teams and junior and youth programs. So that is wonderful. Well, this was fantastic talking to you. How do people find out if they want to follow you or look at the activities you're doing for both the match racing that you do, the Team BAM, now Kabam, some of the other athletes and sailors that you're involved with? How do people follow it if they're interested? Or if they a youngster that hears this, especially a female that wants to get into racing, how do they find out about you and get into the sport?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're pretty big on Instagram at the moment. Team BAM USA, BAM with 2 A's. That's our kind of the go-to for all of us, and myself in particular. We're everywhere. We're everywhere all the time, it seems, and we're quite prominent. So.
That's fantastic.
You can find us there, yeah.
Well, you got to send stuff for me to put up on the website. I want you to make sure any press releases you send out, send to Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com. I'd like to follow you if you're at big events. I certainly will come out and support you and get my camera out there, take pictures, and put it up on the site. I'd like you to tell your team members, anybody, if they're promoting anything to do with personal sailing or business, to come on the show and promote that. It would be fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. I really want to thank Allie Blecher, from a champion sailor, for coming on the show. So, Allie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Well, let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. Here at the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, we cover everything that sails, motors, and floats from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Remember, if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out in the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Thanks for being with us today, and please be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks for our sponsor for the show today, for a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, and now all over social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Keep your emails coming. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all.